Okay, it's Christmas Day and I've got to get on with cooking up the Christmas dinner. Now this year I've decided to make a roasted goose and it's going to be absolutely delicious. Now when you get your goose, what you want to do is unwrap it or whatever and put your hand inside, because quite often you'll find things like the neck, piece of the neck here, and also we've got the giblets, they come in a bag. That's like the heart and the liver and all those kind of things. Now I'm not actually going to use that inside the bird or anything like that, but I'm going to use those later on for maybe making up a stock and make a really nice gravy, or otherwise you could use them for making stew another day or a nice soup. So I'm just going to pull those out of the way so that we can actually concentrate on getting the bird all prepared. Now what you want to do is, just at the end here, we want to try and cut away some of the sort of pieces of fat. So just trim those away and just try and get as much of that sort of fat out. You can almost pull it away with your fingers, but it just helps with like a pair of scissors, just to try and get as much out as you can, because the thing about a goose, it is a very fatty bird and we've got to try and get all that goose fat out. So I'll just carry on getting as much as I can out, really. So what I've done is I've taken out the sort of fat. I'll just show you there, if I bring that into view, if I lift this up slightly, you can see this is the sort of fat there, and it's kind of been trimmed up already, so it's not too fatty and it's all ready to kind of cook up there. So now we've taken out all the giblets and the piece of the neck, and we've taken this excess fat out. We're now going to concentrate on doing the outside of the bird, because there's actually quite a lot of sort of fat tucked away in there between the skin and the flesh, and we want to remove that as much as possible during the cooking process. So I've got my knife there and we're just going to make some cuts here. Like I say, be very careful. I've just kind of sharpened this knife, and what you want to do is just go into the actual skin itself, just to kind of pierce it. Don't be too heavy, because otherwise you will start to actually cut away the sort of flesh. So just go along there, and this is really going to help to remove all that fat. So I'll just carry on doing this on the other side as well. So the next thing we want to do, now we've made those cuts, is just put some seasoning and kind of rub that in, really. Ground black pepper there. Then we're going to put some salt, a good bit of salt, and really just kind of rub that in, really. Just rub it in on the skin and try and get it everywhere, really. Now I'm going to turn the bird over. So now I've got it turned over, any of these sort of like feathers, bits of feather, just pull those off. So go round and try and clean the bird up, really. I mean, if you need to, just use like a pair of tweezers or something, because they're kind of hard to get out sometimes, but I think we'll manage. So just clean the bird up, and again, just very lightly score the underneath of the bird as well. I mean, I'm doing a triangle pattern because it looks nice, but you can cut it any way you like. That do. And we're going to put some seasoning on the outside, bit of salt and pepper again. Plenty of salt and pepper. Put plenty of seasoning, because I think it does need it. So now we've got the bird all kind of prepared, and we've got it sort of seasoned on the outside with salt and pepper, and we've made those sort of diamond cuts, if you like, to get the fat out. What we're now going to do is to make two different stuffings. Now one of the stuffings is going to go in the sort of neck part, and the other one is going to go in the actual carcass. So you're going to get some really good flavours going into that sort of meat, and it's going to be really nice. Now the first stuffing, which I'm going to use for the neck part of the goose, is actually going to be onions. I've got a Bramley apple, and we've got some sausages. Now the sausages I bought are actually Bramley apple sausages, so a good combination, but otherwise any pork sausage. I've got some fresh rosemary and I've got some fresh parsley. Now what we're going to do is kind of put this all into the blender and try and get it a nice fine sort of paste. If you haven't got a blender, just sort of chop it as fine as you can and mix it all up with your hands and just stuff it into the sort of neck of the bird. So I finished blending that. Now what we've ended up with is like a paste almost, and what we're going to do is just put in some breadcrumbs. Good sort of couple of handfuls of breadcrumbs, really. Mix that around just a little bit by hand, and that is your sort of stuffing that is going to go in the neck of the bird. So I'm going to leave that aside, and then we're going to get on with the other stuffing, the cranberry one, which is going to go in the sort of carcass of the bird. Now this is going to be made up of cranberries. I've got a bowl full of cranberries, we've got some sort of breadcrumbs, a little bit of caster sugar. I've got 3 Bramley apples, 1 onion. I've also got some nutmeg. I'm going to sort of grind down a bit of fresh nutmeg. I've got some cloves. Use sort of 6 or 8 of those, crush them down. And then finally, I've got a little bottle here of port. So we're going to add a little bit of port in, mix it up by hand, and just really put that inside the actual bird itself, in the carcass. Now I'm just going to mix up the stuffing. This is really onions, the apples and the cranberries, all mixed in there. Try and use the largest bowl because that's all got to go inside the bird and you need a fair amount. And again, put some breadcrumbs in there, a sort of couple of handfuls of that. And got some caster sugar. I'm going to use that because the apples are quite sort of bitter, and again the cranberries as well. Then I'm going to add a little bit of port. In fact, I'm just going to use one of those little bottles, but you know, use a little bit of port. And then we've got some nutmeg and also some cloves. Now with the cloves, I've used sort of 6 or 8. I've kind of just crushed them up. You don't need very much cloves because they are quite a strong flavour. Now I've got my nutmeg there. That's a sort of fresh nutmeg. Trying to get a little bit of that sort of flavouring. You don't, again, it's quite strong nutmeg, so you don't want to use too much. That'll be fine. And we're going to mix this up by hand, just to kind of get all those flavours infused with each other. And then we're going to actually start stuffing the bird. Now I've got the 2 stuffings done. I've got the one with the cranberries and we've got the one with the sausage meat there. I'm just going to put those aside and we're going to bring the actual goose back into view and start stuffing it. Now with the actual stuffing, the last thing I'm going to add is a bit of salt and pepper seasoning. Again, just put some salt in there. Lovely. Now the first stuffing I'm going to use is the one with the sausage meat, and what you want to do is grab the actual sort of flap where the neck is and just, you know, what we want to do is try and squeeze it as far as we can inside. I'm just making sure that it's all nice and clear, and then just literally grab it and poke it in there. It's as simple as that really, and try and stuff it in as far as you can. Really give it a good squeeze to try and get as much of that as possible in there. So now I've got all the neck stuffed, what we're going to do is to use some of these sort of cocktail sticks and really just sort of poke those in. So I'll just put that in a few places. All the way round. I think that'll do it. I think we're there. Now I'm going to turn the bird over just for a moment, and we're going to start filling up the back end with all that beautiful stuff we've made up with all those cloves and cranberries, and it's going to be good. So let's get that inside the bird. So again, I'm just going to open up this end, just pick it up in handfuls literally, and just pour as much as you can get in there. So now I've actually stuffed the bird with all that sort of stuff in with the cranberries and that. I'm just going to turn that around and show you. Absolutely chock-a-block. Now there's a bit of string, sort of elastic, sort of butcher stuff, and I'm just going to use that to kind of help to pull this thing together, because I want to keep all the flavours nicely in there, and then we're ready. So it's all seasoned up, we've got all that beautiful stuff in, and this is packed full with lovely flavours. Now with the goose, I'm actually going to cook it on the breast side down. Now I'm going to put that into a preheated oven, and like I say, the first half an hour we're just going to cook that at near maximum temperature to kind of get it all going, and then for the 3 hours after we're going to reduce the temperature down. So total cook time 3.5 hours. So I've been cooking for about half an hour, and when you open the door, what a smell. The aroma's absolutely beautiful, and look at the colour on this bird already. It's absolutely looking delicious, and we've only been cooking for half an hour. Now what we need to do is to cook it for another 3 hours. So what I'm going to do is just reduce the temperature down to 180 degrees Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit, and roughly gas mark 4. So we're going to shut that up and leave that cooking. Now we've got another 3 hours to do, but what I'm going to do is halfway through that 3 hour period, so 1.5 hours, I'm going to very carefully turn the bird over so that we're sort of, you know, getting the top side where the breast is a nice beautiful colour as well. So carry on cooking, 3 hours more. Now that's a little tip. What you can do is when you're cooking your goose, just pull it out slightly, you can actually add in just a little bit of water, and that I think helps to kind of steam it and keep it nice and moist. So just shut that back up again. Now I'm just over halfway through the cooking. If you remember, the first half an hour we actually cooked at near maximum temperature just to get a little bit of colour on this side and get the goose cooking, and now we've been cooking for 1.5 hours at the lower temperature. Now I'm going to take this out and we're actually going to flip it over and carry on cooking for another 1.5 hours. So what I want to do is two things. Firstly, I want to flip this bird over so we get a beautiful colour on the other side, because it's a really lovely colour. It looks really appealing already, and we're going to flip that over and get the same colour on the breast side. But also I want to tip, you know, that goose fat we've got mixed with the water there. I'm just going to pour it into a container because goose fat is absolutely fabulous for making roast potatoes. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually turn it over. Now I'm going to use my oven gloves for doing that, so because it is going to be really hot, and to be honest with you, I don't want to start using knives and forks to try and do it. Let's just turn it over. Look at that, it's got a beautiful colour already. Now the next thing I want to do is actually lift up the whole thing, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm just tipping in all the juices as much as I can get in that jar, really, like that. Pop that back down. Let's make sure that's in view. Now, so I'm going to put this back in the oven, carry on cooking at 180 degrees Celsius, 1.5 hours. Now, just before we finish the 1.5 hours, I'm just going to rub over some sort of, you know, we've got cranberry kind of jelly, like cranberry sauce, just rub that over the skin, and it will give it a beautiful colour, and it will just give it an extra dimension, a little bit extra flavour. Just before I put it in the oven, I'm just going to tip a little bit more water there. So put that in the oven, carry on cooking for another 1.5 hours. Now I'm just going to open it up because we're now at the 3 hour stage, so we've only got half an hour more to cook. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the whole thing out, and we're going to put some beautiful sort of cranberry sort of jelly like sauce over the top of that, give it a really nice colour and a beautiful flavour. So pull those out. Now at the top there you'll see that I've got some roast potatoes and parsnips, and I'm actually cooking those in the goose fat. So I'm going to pull the goose out now and put it on the table, have a look at it, and put that cranberry jelly all over it, and really just kind of rub it in. The flavour is going to be beautiful. So we've got half an hour sort of cooking time, and again still at a lower temperature, and after that then it's going to be ready to go. Right, I'm just going to take my goose out. Now I've taken it out 10 minutes earlier than I thought I would, because I think it's got a really good colour and I don't want to burn it. Look at that, beautiful. Now what I'm going to do is lay a little bit of tin foil over the top of this, and we're going to leave it to kind of rest and become really juicy for at least half an hour, but you can leave it for at least an hour before you carve it. Now I've left this for about half an hour, and I'm just going to remove the tin foil. Look at that, absolutely lush. And we're going to very lightly sort of carve some of this, just so you can see what it's like. Now I'm actually going to put all of this onto a separate little plate, but just pull it out there. Look at that, lovely. Let me just try a bit. Try that bit out. Alright, that is so yummy. Feels like Christmas. That is so nice. It's beautiful. Let me try that again. Oh, and with that bit of cranberry, when you get it, absolutely delicious. This is so nice. I love it. Happy Christmas. Thanks for watching, and enjoy.